Welcome to Value Added, the real estate podcast where we speak with the brightest minds in the world of real estate who provide, create, and realize value in an ever-changing market. If you're a real estate professional delivering value to your clients, an investor creating value not seen by others, or a busy professional who passively invests in real estate to grow the value of their hard-earned dollar, then you're in the right place. And now your host, Nick Walters.
Hey gang, welcome to another episode of Value Added, the real estate podcast. On today's episode, we're chatting with Dan Schoenbaechler. Dan is a northern New Jersey-based real estate agent with Keller Williams. He is also the founder of Schoen Capital, a multifamily real estate investment firm. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. It's good to be seen. How's the fam?
Good. How's your new addition?
Wild and woolly.
Yeah.
Our number one son is very jealous right now.
Oh yeah, we're expecting some of that too. Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, man.
No problem. I wasn't sure you were still cranking away, but the paternity leave package for entrepreneurs really sucks. So
that is very true. I did not negotiate a good enough paternity package with my company.
Exactly.
How's life in the world of resi brokerage in New Jersey? Let's talk about that a little bit. Probably very similar to my world in the New York resi market, with people moving out of New York in droves, coming up here to Fairfield County, Connecticut, where I live. I'm sure you're getting a lot of traffic, a lot of business out there in Bergen County. Is that pretty accurate?
Bergen, Essex, Morris, Union, all the suburbs surrounding New York, yes. Super busy. And I literally have deals in almost every one of those counties I just listed.
That's a big farming area, man.
Yeah. I was Hudson County only for a while. I was based out of Hoboken, which is kind of like the pinnacle landmark central location of Hudson County. Everything seems to evolve a little bit around that. Not to offend Jersey City people. Jersey City stepped up its game. So now it's also Hoboken, Jersey City are pretty much like the epicenter of Hudson now, as I offend the other towns in the county. But, I really got to a point where I kind of mastered the area and knew every part inside and out. And it got to the point where we knew we were going to move to Bergen County, to the suburbs. So I figured, you know what, instead of sending out all these referrals, I'm going to be there. Obviously, I can start learning the market a little faster. And these surrounding counties are also where a lot of the Hudson County residents end up moving to anyway when they outgrow their apartments and are ready for a yard in more than a 2 or 3 bedroom property. So now I'm catching both sides of the transaction, able to do so versus just referring it out as well. So,
yeah, sure. Same thing here. A couple of years ago when I was referring business out from the city to the suburbs to my team out here. Now that I'm living in the suburbs, it's a little bit easier for me to, as my business down in New York is obviously, a little bit down, although there are still transactions being made. My business out in the suburbs has definitely grown as a result of this. In terms of the city business, as long as cheap money is still around, people are looking for deals. The volume of transactional activity is definitely down, but as long as sellers are reasonable, pricing things reasonably and they're willing to negotiate. 2 of my 3 listings right now, knock on wood, one is under contract and one is hopefully this week will be under contract, so deals are getting done. So, and I'm sure you have a pretty good referral network for brokers like myself in the city. I'm sure that faucet is dried up, but Yeah, I mean, I've thrown a couple.
Out.
Sorry,
they're coming out from the city. I don't have many referrals going in. Yeah,
exactly. Not too many people are looking to move into the city. Although I just signed a lease, a rental lease with two young guys, recent college grads, and one has already started his job in the city, and one is about to. Actually, just yesterday was his first day, and we got them a great $5,000 a month 2-bedroom in the East 30s, and we got them 3 months free. So they're paying a net effective rent of $3,750 a month on a $5,000 a month unit. Pretty good deals to be had out there in the rental market as well. So. Yeah,
it's funny. Hudson County is also a very strong rental market, being a more urban area and so close to New York, 10 minutes away. The sales market has also slowed a bit. Still moving. I just lost a bidding war yesterday for a 1-bedroom condo for almost $500,000. But the rentals have been decimated. Hoboken during the summer months on the MLS, just Hoboken, usually have about 250 to 300 units listed. Now, granted, 100 will rent in 1 week, but 100 more hit the market. It's just super high turnover. But on average, it hangs around 250 to 300. We're around 800 on the market right now. So we're talking double to triple the amount of inventory. And it's funny, even being on like Facebook, Hoboken, Jersey City pages and stuff, I see so many people, hey, we're leaving our place. We need a little more space. So not even the shadow inventory of all the for lease by owner stuff. It's incredible the droves that are leaving. And suburban market. So thank goodness I diversified myself a bit a couple of years ago and been covering this area. So I was kind of ready to catch a lot of this. And this is where the bulk of my transactions have been the past 6 months. So thankfully it kept me afloat while Hudson County is slower, but things are still moving, just at a slower click, slight discount. And rentals, I haven't heard any concessions like 3 months free, but people are definitely dropping. I listed a rental last week in Jersey City Heights, right above Hoboken, amazing location, a 3-bedroom row home. And I listed it probably $150 below what it should have rented for, and I got it rented in 3 days. So, you price it right, things will move. That's the name of the game in real estate. Good market, bad market, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's true. Things have to be, priced right, and there's enough eyeballs still on these metro New York markets that things are going to move. But if
can't change the location
and location is key. Absolutely. Yep. So how has your business, or let's ask this: what sort of things have you needed to change in the last, say, 6 months? In your brokerage business out in New Jersey? You're definitely a lot busier now. Maybe because of that influx from the people coming out of the city. But anything with your daily schedule changed, or the markets that you're covering? Anything that's changed in the last 6 or 8 months since we've been in this?
I guess some things that had to change were. First of all, time blocking, because having a toddler at home is very difficult. And also a pregnant wife with very low energy. So, she's working full time as well, and she's got a more corporate job. So it's hard for her to step away. Whereas I can wait to call some people or pop on my headphones and have the conversation while I'm feeding my kid lunch, stuff like that. So that's been very challenging to coordinate. So my hours have shifted a lot, where I'm doing a lot more late night stuff or early morning before business hours when I can reach people directly. Besides that, keeping up on lending, that's been the mortgage world is changing like every other week, it seems. So trying to keep up and stay as educated, even though it's not necessarily our job. We are advisors and we're supposed to push them to speak to the lender directly, but part of the value of being a quality agent is, a good amount of everything. I don't need to be a specialist, but if I can at least talk to something like lending or title or stuff like that, then it just makes me prepare my clients better so that they can have better expectations during the transaction, which ultimately leads to everything being smoother. So, like I just heard last week, actually my buddy, who's not even a realtor, sent me this article about refinances, and Fannie and Freddie are charging a point or half a point on, like, that's just standard now. And I was blown away. I was like, whoa. So clearly it's like any business that you're getting too much work, you try and slow it down by jacking up your prices. So very glad that I just closed my second refi in 6 months a couple months ago and didn't have to pay that point. But single family homes now a mandatory fee in addition to the normal fees. So something to make people aware of, even though the interest rates are great, and ultimately it could still be very, very lucrative for someone to do that. So, but folks have them prepared before they talk to the lender.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the lending space in both, we'll talk about the investments, the investment side of the business as well, but both, the commercial lending and residential lending space is, you're right. I mean, the interest rates, terms, additional fees, are changing by the day. So it's really important as advisors, to your point, to keep your clients up to speed as best as possible. That's one of the one of the things that we as real estate agents, you might want to use this bank, but this doesn't look like the lowest interest rate that you may get. Maybe you have a very good relationship with XYZ bank, but I'm trying to get you the best deal possible. Why don't you talk to these 3 other banks that, I was just quoted 2.65% the other day by, one of my trusted loan officers for a 10-year ARM, I
got my cousin locked in for a 2.65 on a 30-year fixed on a single family house.
That's crazy. Yeah. So that just goes to show that, you got to do your homework, and you need your clients to do their homework to be able to get the best deal possible. I mean, it's so competitive out there. Even in this climate, the lending space is very, very competitive, so.
Yeah. And also, we had the experience where we've seen the things fall apart, people trying to push to use something that, there's a reason why we're making suggestions. We've gone through it before, and especially you and I, very condo and co-op heavy with our inventory. Whole other set of rules. Working a single family house is so much easier on the lending side, because there's not all the budgets and financials and associations to deal with and additional rules that come with that. So, dealing with people that come in and, they want to use a big bank that they do their banking with, and they're getting incentivized because they have their funds there and stuff, and they'll dangle that extra low. There's at least one bank that someone I know used to be a loan officer for them. He said, every quarter we'll do a quick dip, try and get a bunch of people, and then we bring the prices back up. And it's enticing. However, all the red tape that comes along with it, let alone their systems and processes of, some of the biggest issues is appraisal. They'll shop these appraisers. I had people from New York State, an appraiser that came down, and he gets on the waterfront in Weehawken, New Jersey, and he goes, wow, this view is amazing. I was like, yeah, and do you know how much it's worth? Because there's a number and a difference between partial and direct view and all this stuff. So, I mean, I've seen appraisals off by 6 figures on some of these properties. It's like a good, healthy percentage, probably close to 10% on some stuff. Yeah, and when you go with the more local lender, and it could even be, the number one lender in New Jersey is a large private lender. So, it's not one of the big boys, but, they're nationwide, but the local expertise, and they only use appraisers within a certain radius of the location. So I actually had a good appraiser I used to see all the time. And I did a deal one time, and I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. He goes, yeah, I moved too far away, so I don't get any of that business anymore. So, a shame that we lost him in that market, but that just goes to show they come in, they know what's going on, because some of these, especially the past 6 years, it's been such a fast moving market. It's nice when the appraiser comes in and goes, oh, I did those other two up the road, so I have those numbers, even though they didn't close yet, stuff like that. They know where the market's gone. And the big banks just kind of come in a little blind. And hey, I bank with all the big banks. It's great. And, I've considered them for, again, single family house, suburbs, very easy to do, but that's a case by case scenario. So everyone in their own market, there is different situations. So I'm not knocking big banks altogether. It's just, and I'm not knocking the little banks. It's just everyone has their niche in the market. And we have to help steer people, because I've had deals where I'm going to use this attorney that doesn't really do residential business. Okay. I'm going to use this bank, which doesn't do much condo business. Okay. And, I say my piece. That's fine. You're free to choose who you want. This is what could happen. And every
time it blows up.
Exactly. And, you come to the closing table and it's kind of like a bittersweet, like, oh, yay, we're here. After it was a grueling process for 2 months. So, I like to try and make everything as smooth as possible for all sides, because it's an awesome, joyous situation. You're moving your life. And for most people, it's the largest single investment you ever make, not only financially, but even, personally. It's a place you're going to make some memories by default. So, let's get here in a happy situation.
That's right. Getting back to the appraisal talk, every appraisal that I go to, I'm hand delivering the appraiser with the purchase and sale contract, and then real comps. And listen, we don't get a lot of appraisers that are involved in the New York City co-op and condo market that don't know the market. So very rarely have I ever had an appraisal that comes in that is being questioned by the bank. But on the attorney side of things, to your point, I've had clients that want to hire a family member up in Rockland County, and they've done 3 co-op transactions in New York City in their whole career. I'm going to guarantee that this transaction is not going to go. It may close, but it's not going to go as smooth as, hey, listen, here are 5 names of attorneys that I work with exhaustively, and you need to work with one of these. Man, when I ask about my clients' attorneys who they're working with, and it's Joe Bob Sue from out in Western New Jersey, and they don't have the experience of transacting in the New York City co-op and condo market, or in the 6 suburbs of Hoboken. It's a very different market. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I wouldn't even want to touch New York City market. I mean, I know it's a different animal. I'm not trying to mess with that. And there was many times where I considered getting licensed to catch the transaction on both ends of the river. Because of course your prices have always been so amazing too. We've all seen $1 million listing and all that stuff. So, nothing short. Everything costs at least 10 million over there, right?
That's right. Yeah. And the transactions happen overnight.
Yeah. And rentals, at least 20,000 a month, So, actually you guys charge a bigger broker fee on that.
Well, we do get 6% in most cases, but there is no, I have to say that there is no standard brokerage fee. That's just,
exactly.
That's the usual negotiated upon brokerage fee.
Right.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's switch gears, because you have a very similar business strategy, business plan, business model to mine. We're real estate brokers. We also are investors. You have a very, very large network of clients investors, and I want you to talk about kind of how you started to build the network that you currently have now, and it has to do with what your job was, at the area country clubs, and making headwinds into developing relationships with some very high net worth individuals and businesses.
Sure. So growing up in the suburbs of New Jersey, my dad was also born and raised here, and he always caddied as a kid at a country club. So when I was coming of age, I had a bike route before that, which it's amazing our kids will never know what a newspaper route is. But anyway, I used to deliver, I was up at 6 a.m. delivering papers 2 days a week or whatever it was. And I was always a saver, just kept the money. And eventually I was looking forward to doing more. I was also a 3-sport athlete throughout school. So the jobs were always something that was pretty much between seasons, like the 2 months of summer that you get between track or baseball and football. So it was also ideal that I had something where I could make more money in that short amount of time versus other kids that can work longer. So I had a couple friends that actually started at this local country club, and it's funny because they kind of quit right away, and I followed, and they're like, "Oh, you don't want to do that." I'm like, "Oh, well, it's caddying. I need the money." My dad said it's good money and I should do it. So end up going, and it was like a military drill sergeant for a caddy master. So it was, everyone was straight in line and tip top shape and all that. But I really started to enjoy it the more I did it. And, I liked golf already. I was playing myself, and eventually, as I was doing it throughout high school and getting closer to college, fortunately for me, my mom was in human resources. So when college came, she's like, one of the more important things in a degree is job experience. And up until that point, I always thought that an internship was just like summer before senior year kind of thing. And she's like, no, get as much interning experience as possible. You could do it all 4 years. And I had some friends that did land some 4 summers of internship, and then they got offered incredible jobs out of school in that field. So it turned into, every time I started my loop, I would just ask the gentleman, so what do you do or woman, so what do you do for a living? And I just started to get to know what people did and see if there's an opportunity for me to do anything. And it's kind of funny because there was even a couple times where I connected some members with other members. So I was like, oh, you're in this business? He does something like that. Oh, I've never met him before. Oh, you should go talk to him. He's a good guy. And I think I've coordinated some multi-million-dollar deals. I don't know. Definitely didn't get compensated for it. But what was also cool was the course was I almost want to say blue collar, just for the fact that, it wasn't $500,000 to join. It was much more achievable. I would say the majority of members were local people that worked their way up. Everyone from, having their own just small accounting practice, law firm, and then people with just high paying salary jobs in the city and like finance or things like that. Definitely a lot of entrepreneurs for sure. So I got to see that. But the funny thing was, I started to notice a pattern that the people that had the most wealth, the accountant, the insurance person, it's because they also built a portfolio of real estate on the side. So I know this guy is a partner in an accounting firm. He's like, oh, and I have like 500 units on the side. And so that person, oh, we have 1,200 units. Oh, interesting. Okay. And there were a couple people that were just full-time real estate people. Not too many, but it was a gentleman who was a new member in a commercial broker in his early 60s. And I was caddying for him. And at the time, I was a couple years out of college and I was doing financial advising. I was taking that route. Had my Series 6, 63, life and health licenses. And I was helping people build their wealth through financial service products. So I'm still caddying on the side because it's very low pay, mostly commission. So I'm spending my weekends networking and caddying. And over the course of the round, he's telling him, I'm asking questions what he does, how everything works, this and that. And he's telling me that over the course of his 25-year career, he had some times where, he was good friends with these clients at this point. They're asking, hey, do you want to throw in your commission and get some equity on this deal? Sometimes he'd refi his house to pull cash out and put in towards the deal. And he said, I have no more than 10 to 15% of about 6 properties. And in a couple of years, I'll be 65, mortgages will be finished, and I'll be passively bringing in $400,000 a year. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So at the end of the round, I was like, it sounds like you might want to diversify a couple of your retirement products. He goes, sounds like you need to get your real estate license. So put in my notice. A couple of weeks later, I finished real estate school, and I went to work for his partner. They each kept one-man offices just for tax purposes, I guess. However, they had both done all their deals, every single deal together over the past 25 years. And his partner was about 10 years younger. So he said, he can mentor you more. I'm looking to phase out. You guys can work together. I think you'll mash up well. And we also have a $140 million deal on the table. So get licensed, we'll work you in. I was like, okay, that sounds good.
So you're currently at Keller Williams. You have a pretty established business. Tell me a little bit about how you've been able to parlay these relationships into putting their capital to work into some of these multifamily projects you're working on.
Sure. Well, I learned about the whole syndication model, which is basically pooling people's resources together to be able to afford something that as an individual you wouldn't be able to, like 100+ unit multifamily building. I don't have that down payment. You might not have that down payment either. But together with people we know in our network, we probably get enough people to invest to take that down. So I got introduced to about 3 years ago, and it's really kind of became the culmination. And this is funny, stepping back, it's like all my worlds collided. So the financial advising, helping build people's wealth and create tax advantages, all the networking I did on the golf course, which kind of molded me into, I eventually got into sales and stuff because I just realized I loved talking to people. What do they do? And then, of course, very fascinated by people that were able to be successful in whatever they did, which did tend to bring money with that. And real estate. The broker I started working for actually specialized in large multifamily off-market properties. So everything started to collide, and which is why I think I love it so much. And touching back on people like a lot of those country club members, you find me a 7% cap rate, 8%, fairly unachievable for the kind of property they actually would want to own and manage. So now I have an opportunity where I have networked with and have great relationships with a lot of top operators around the country. And some of them are even right here in New Jersey, but have all these out-of-state investments that they asset manage. So now they're able to put money into a completely passive vehicle where not only can they get the returns they were looking for, they also don't have to necessarily do anything. We have the general partners that run the whole show, and the passive investors just receive quarterly or monthly checks depending on the deal. So it's a great outlet for a lot of my clients too, because I'm still selling investment properties locally. Definitely have a bunch of people still actively on the hunt for them and that I'm closing for. But it's a lot different. Everyone has a different investment criteria. So some people need to be able to be 10 minutes away from it, touch it, be there in a heartbeat. They want to be as hands-on as possible. Then other people are, you know what? I really don't want phone calls in the middle of the night about broken toilets and dealing with late rent and all this stuff. So again, it's provided just that ultimate situation. And also all the real estate residential clients I have, we're Hoboken I think median income was 140,000, something like that. Like it's been ranked many years by Money Magazine as in the top 3 of youngest and wealthiest and most single towns in America. Because of the 55,000 people, I think 60% are unmarried, and again, average income is over $100,000. So there's a lot of people who make good money, but they don't want all the headaches that come with property management. So
that's a recipe for a passive investor right there. Disposable income, and they don't want any responsibility. They don't want any. They don't want to operate it. They just want to watch their money grow and take advantage of the tax advantages, right?
The tax advantages. And that's a funny tip I learned. Well, not a tip I learned. I figured it out myself. But, I was talking to a couple of people with, these high net worths, and, oh, you make this return, that return. Yeah. Okay. And they just kind of wrote me off. And, being the salesman I am, doesn't stop me from talking about it. And so, I ended up having a conversation with them again. And this time I lead with only talking about tax benefits. And suddenly eyes light up and checkbooks come out. And they didn't realize what could happen because they're earners. They have the high net worth because they know how to make money. It's whether the job they're in or something like that. Like you put in $100,000, get a 10% return. $10,000 is not changing their life. I even joked that I made an extra $10,000 on something, selling an extra house or something. And while I was doing my home renovation, I was like, I got a nicer toilet. So, it didn't move the dial too much for a lot of these people. So, but the one thing that they do have, because a lot of them are working jobs that the government punishes as employees, that they charge you through the wazoo for taxes. If you do what the government wants you to do, they will treat you to less taxes. And if you're, not doing those roles, then you get taxed at the highest rates. So a lot of people need that. And I even give an example of, we have kids about the same age. I was teaching a class last year, so my son was about 1 year old. And I give an example of saving for college. This is my college savings plan. Fortunately, we've done a few deals in some very low price markets where we can do a more achievable $25,000 investment. I say, okay, usually our goal is to double that money between the distributions and the equity payout over, we aim for 5 years. Let's just be conservative and say it doubles over 7 years. So I put in $25,000 today. In 7 years, all the payments, everything going in a separate account. I keep it separate. Now I have $50,000. My son is 8 years old. I compound it. I reinvest the whole thing. Now I go 50 grand into a deal. 7 years later, he's 15. I have $100,000. One more time, he's 22. I have $200,000. And hopefully that will afford back paying all the college loans, and college is paid for, and hopefully even grad school if that's a thing he wants to do. Now, compare that to the 529 college savings plan through financial service, and you're putting money in tax deferred. However, there's management fees on that. And also, what if your child doesn't go to college at 18 years old? I got to say, at the current rate, and I think the COVID-19 pandemic is shifting. It's making everything shift now to correct itself. So it's almost a little blessing in some industries. But the rate we were going, college would not have a return on investment. It's unbelievable paying $75,000 a year for decent school, not even the top, but decent schools. And you're coming out of college, are you even making $75,000 after you put $300,000 into your education? It's tough. And, we need college educations for the teachers and even a lot of these essential kind of things. And they're not going to be able to afford to do it and then take on all that burden. So it's an awful cycle. So if your child does not go to college, now you have to pull that money out of that fund, pay all those taxes. And so what are you left with at the end of the day? versus here we grew the wealth and we were getting tax deductions along the way through depreciation and other write-offs. So that's all passed down to the passive investors. So the amount of extra money you put in your pocket, because I am not going to be mad if my son turns 18, gets his real estate license, and by 20 he's earning six figures, because guess what? I showed him the way and the proper way to do it. So, I have no problem. I'm very pro college. I think it was one of the best experiences I ever had. Even though I ended up not being the best college student, I think my brain was wired a little differently. But that was also an experience that helped me grow my networking skills. And it's more the experience you're paying for. But I know my parents didn't pay $75,000 a year. And
yeah, true.
I actually got my return on money from when I went and where I went. So I'm going to encourage my kids to go to school, but as long as they have another plan, I'm not going to be mad if it doesn't happen, but I'm going to make sure I'm financially prepared.
Well, I am a big fan of education, whether it's in the classroom or educating yourself through reading books or blogs or podcasts. You can never educate yourself or your kids enough, but I do know that kids, high school kids, college kids are not being educated enough on this stuff that we talked about today: taxes, tax benefits, the benefits of investing either actively or passively in income producing real estate. We're going to finish off this episode with the hard hitting questions. We've got about 5 minutes remaining here in this episode. The first question I always ask I ask of my guests is, what is your why?
My why is definitely family, legacy. Want to make sure that what money does is it brings options. And I want to make sure that my children and even their children will have options for the future.
Is there a recent book or a podcast or a blog that you've recently read or listened to that has provided significant value to your life and or career?
Value Added by Nick Walters changed my life.
Wow. I'm blushing.
In addition to that, I've become a big fan of Oren Klaff. He wrote the book Pitch Anything, which I listened to first a few months back, and then his most recent one, Flip the Script. The guy, I think he said on average raises $2 million a month for companies and businesses, and just awesome sales skills. Big fan, and it's even stuff you can use like trying to negotiate with a toddler. So
I like that. What piece of advice would you give yourself to your 21, 22 year self, recently graduated from college? What kind of advice would you give him right now?
Oh, well, knowing what I know, part of my problem then was I was a little less focused. I was chasing dreams. I was in a rock band, was trying to get signed first before really having to land a job. But the funny thing is, if I knew more about passive income type stuff, and especially the use of other people's money, OPM as they call it, I could have done both. I could have started setting up, get a couple small college rentals, something like that, where it's super cheap. The money I saved from caddying, I could have bought a house, and I could have some income so I can pursue some of that stuff. And now it's to the point where I'm starting to do a couple other hobbies here and there because I'm a little more secure. So again, it's setting it up so I can have more options down the road.
Lastly, how can our listeners get a hold of you or learn a little bit about you and your business?
Sure. On social media, Facebook is just Dan Schoenbaechler. Website's still in the works. However, you can find me on Instagram as well at Schoen Capital, SCHOEN, and also Dan at SchoenCap.com.
Are you impressed that I not only fit your full last name on my whiteboard, but I think I spelt it right. Is that correct?
You sure did. My name doesn't even fit on my credit card, so that's good.
Did it fit on the back of your football jersey?
It went down the shoulders a little bit. It was a little bit of an arc.
Curled down towards the shoulder blades, right?
Yeah, many parents that were, ironing on those things were, they all gave me a look when I got on the field, like, you better appreciate that. That was a lot of hard work.
Hey, Dan, listen, man, I really appreciate the time today. Thank you for adding your value, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
My pleasure. Happy to talk with you.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a rating and a review, which will help us introduce the podcast to other listeners. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which will give you access to other episodes you may have missed. Lastly, if you'd like to learn more about investing alongside us, then head on over to valueaddedpodcast.com. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you next week.